So welcome, Willliam Whitecloud, to the Adventures of Self.
Thanks, Taylor. Good to be here. We were just saying earlier, long time since we have actually connected and seen each other.
Yeah, well, certainly in these challenging and unique times that we find ourselves in these days. Yeah, it's been an adventure.
It has, yeah.
And we were talking just before we got started. I mean, this is the adventures of self, and you and I share a love of adventure in many different ways, not necessarily the sort of daredevil diving out of planes, literally, although that may come into the mix.
No, that is not my mix. I do a few adventure things, whitewater rafting, zip lining, and stuff like that, caving. But jumping out of airplanes, man, that's that's not for me. I don't I don't need to do that to feel like alive and a thrill. Hey? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you mentioned ziplining. We were, I think one of the last adventures we were on in person was ziplining in the first zip line and whatever those adventure sort of parks is in Swaziland.
Right. Yeah. Up at Malalacha Game Reserve. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very beautiful scenically, but it's quite tame. You never sort of, feel like in danger of your life. I don't think I didn't, but it's like just a stunning, exquisite experience. Huh?
Yeah, you're well strapped in. Two, three harnesses. I also want to say, I mean, I'm really happy to have you on the show. You're an inspiration to me and the work that I'm doing here. I'd sort of make a little bit of a big deal because this is episode 50, which is an arbitrary number, but it feels like a certain accomplishment, and I'm very happy to have you on as a guest.
I am number 50, huh? It should be a cake here with candles.
Well, for our listeners, they can imagine a beautiful cake. For anybody seeing this on YouTube, well, they'll see the two of us without cake.
You can kind of Photoshop it in, can't you?
Yeah, of course. Well, as I said, we've been on several adventures together around the world, and we've each had our own adventures in life. And we were talking before the show about like what is it, this sense of adventure? What is it that calls to us? Because you mentioned mythology, and I think there is, however you want to define it, whether it's jumping out of airplanes or whether it's a marriage or a podcast or ziplining in Swaziland, there are these things that seem to call to us that to go beyond what we know.
Yeah. I mean, either physically or sort of personally, spiritually, you could say, right, is to go further than what we know. And I mean, there is some kind of obvious need to physically go further than what you know. I mean, we would never have evolved as a race if we never left the valley we were in, if we weren't curious, if there wasn't some sense of curiosity and about how things work, and so technologically and geographically, and I think even biologically, like how we've grown and how big we are and strong we are, and we've developed that through adventure, through curiosity, through exploration, But the thing is, I still think though that the biggest adventure is the adventure of oneself. From everything I see and in my experience personally, and I've worked with thousands of people, And it's easier for a person to jump out of the plane, out of an aeroplane, usually, you know, or whatever it is. Even like, believe it or not, go to war. It's easier to go to war, say that, you know, this is like the ultimate physical adventure, right? Or misadventure. It's easier to do that. You know, men would rather go and kill and be killed than actually face themselves and you know, look at themselves and discover themselves and face what, you know, what is dysfunctional, what is delusionary, what is limited about self, you know, what is actually, you could say, wrong with us. What of our thinking and behavior and actions and that are wrong-minded, are uncreative, less effective, you know, and then, you know, discover what would be, you know, a more true way for us to you know and act and become. It's like, to me, it is, well, it is. I was gonna debate myself there, but it is the greatest challenge. It is the greatest adventure, and the most difficult one and the most challenging one, but definitely the most rewarding one, and simply for this reason. The terminology I always use is like, we're always born onto the wrong track in life. Every human being has something in common. You know, the great leveler is, we're born, and we all of us, and there's no exceptions to the rule. Everyone's born on the wrong track in life, and by that I mean, we come into life, we have experiences, we figure out how it is, and particularly from, let's just call it, for commonality of language with everyone, we have negative experiences. And so we go, well, we want to avoid those experiences. So to avoid those experiences and those dangers, you know, we should be like this. And usually, well, not usually, always those ideas will cause us to take on an idea of who we should be that's not really in line with who we really are, you see. And so we, you know, who we should be, that protects us. It's not who we really are, but it'll protect us. I mean, it's really, you know, I mean, it's a very interesting conversation talking to you about this, this whole thing of adventure. It really is. You know, I discovered, and I learned it from a Latin American artist that I saw being interviewed. And yeah, it was a really extraordinary interview. And she was in New York, somewhere like that. I think it was New York. It was a little while ago. She was in New York, and she was at this huge art exhibition, right? Massive art exhibition. And she had been invited to do an installation there. So her installation was, she raised the floor of the building by several feet, you see, and created this whole crack through the middle. Her contribution to this whole art symposium, exhibition, whatever you call it, was this crack through, this fracture through the whole building. And that was it, you know, and there it was, the great artist from South America. And, you know, the interviewer's like, what's this all about, you know? And she said, you know, she's talking about it, she says, look, you know, the meaning of the word experience comes from journey through danger. So the etymology, the words that, you know, the word experience, it's cobbled together from prior language words, you know, and so it's like, what do they mean? They mean journey through danger. So when we talk about our experiences, it's like, what's your experience of, you know, it's like, what's your experience of life been? What meaning, how was your journey through danger? You know what I mean? It's about the journey through danger. So we have a relationship to life that it's dangerous, you see. And so then we also have a decision about how we should be in order to avoid that danger, you see. And then what we do is we avoid our own nature, our own full-blown true nature, for fear that you know, will lead us, into danger. We won't be careful. We'll be inconsiderate. We'll lose control. We'll lose affection. If we just ourselves, it's like, what do we stand to lose? And so we become very attached to that identity. And so to detach from that identity of your, what I would call your smaller self, to come back to your true nature and your true purpose in life, is an adventure. It's a very challenging thing, right? I mean, it's because, jumping out of airplane, at least you got a parachute on. But when you let go of like your shadow self to become your full self, you're full of ideas of how dangerous that is, and you don't have a parachute.
Mm.
So this is the greatest challenge you're ever going to have. It's the greatest challenge you're ever going to have, the greatest adventure you're ever going to have, is becoming yourself again, is putting yourself back on track, if that all makes sense.
Totally. And it's something that we've talked about here on the show. I mean, there's a few things that come to me. One is to, I suppose, reiterate just what you're saying from a personal perspective. I mean, I've been working with you for, I don't know, over 5 years, 5 or 6 years, and had, tried different things, wanted different experiences or adventures, I suppose, and really struggled with was very familiar with the that experience side that you spoke about, the facing the difficult demons inside, and maybe there's a a masochistic, or my Scorpio side, or I don't know what, my father wasn't around, or something that allowed me to be willing to experience a lot of the difficulties. But I never had much of a key, really. I had opportunities, but I never had a key, a guide into that fulfillment of self. And it was really interesting what you were talking about. This sense of adventure that is kind of within sort of all humanity, right? And may even be biological, right? I was reading a couple of books recently that talked about sort of one of the things that set man apart from other species, and particularly other primates, and that when the first whatever proto-humans were starting to get up onto their 2 legs, rather than gorillas still sort of mainly walk around on their fists, and every now and then to show up and to do things they'll be up on their legs, but mostly they're on, most animals are on four appendages. And that when we got up onto 2 legs, our vision all of a sudden went to the horizon. So it opened our perspective on what was possible, and started this quest of maybe consciousness. What the hell, what are we here for? What is this all about? And yet there is this, we're kind of in this, and you can see it in the experience of civilizations and individuals, this kind of constant tension. Like there's something that is valuable in experience, in living through danger, and saying, okay, cool, now I know when the stove is red, it's hot because I got burned by it once, so I'm not going to do that again. Like, that's really useful to know, because you don't want to do that every day. But it limits you, right? It doesn't allow for what it means to go beyond that. I'm very grateful, and just in a way sort of getting started on my own adventure of self. I mean, in the years that I've been working with you and your work, this sense of, like, it's one thing to deal with that challenge of getting to the demons, the darkness, and and the unknown of what's holding us back and our dysfunction. And there's something else entirely about really giving air and space to what it is we would truly love, because there are all sorts of things that come up when you start to actually see what it is you truly love, because it's like, well, how do I do that? Who am I to do these things? And what if I fail? What does that say about me and my heart and my ability to do these things? It's just easier to, I'll just go to the office, earn my keep, go on my 2 weeks vacation, maybe jump out of an airplane, because we know the parachute 99.9% of the time works, so I'll take that risk.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, like we'll go to the office and we'll work that and we'll keep safe, and then we'll you know, we'll get our need for danger and excitement and risk from jumping out of an aeroplane, or you know, going and watching it watch a horror movie or something, you know, a thriller, and get that thrill from that. You know, it's quite easy in this modern world to get your thrills, what I call vicariously. You know, you can get a great sense of satisfaction, can't you, from supporting a team, a soccer team, or a rugby team, or a football team, or a baseball team. You go, that's my team. And when they lose, you're upset. You want to beat someone else up. And when they win, it's like, yay, and you're toasting, you're drinking. You're the hero, but you never played the game.
Well, so much that you know, when it's your team, it's we won.
Yeah, right, yeah,
we didn't play well on Saturday. Oh, I didn't see you on the. Were you on the
Yeah,
bench, or what's it? I missed you. Where was that?
So, you know, George Lucas, the filmmaker, right, Star Wars and that, he's a very smart guy, like, and his films are very informed by Jungian psychology and mythology and all that, you know. And you know, so he knows what filmmaking's about. He's like saying, you know, we've got to, you know, it's a human need, and that really drives us. There is a human need, believe it or not, you know, because you can get these new age people, white light, everything's good and it's beautiful and all that. But they love, you know, not all of them, but new agers I know, they love Game of Thrones, and it's sex and violence and shit, you know. And it's like, oh, but me, no, I'm, you know, I'm chaste. I'm just, no, but they got their need of that violence and that, you know, whatever emotions are evoked, they get it from, you know, because every range of emotion has, you know, there's a need in humans to experience it. So they're going to experience it, right? They're going to jump out of planes or whatever, right? And that's the thing, though, you see, is are you going to do it for real? Are you going to do it for real? Or will you just get it vicariously? Will you just be a couch potato? Will you work safely at home and all that? And then will you, you know, go and do something like jump out of a plane with a parachute to get that thrill, or go and watch a movie? Because going to the movies can substitute for your whole life, right? So you can go and watch a romantic comedy, that'll take care of all your romantic emotions. You go and watch a horror movie, that will take care, you know, go and watch a war movie, that'll take care of all your violent emotions, what aggressive emotions, whatever, right? So you can just live life very, you know, vicariously, right? Or you know, you can you can do it, you know, you can do it for real, and you know, like actually, you know, really, you know, live. And the thing is, though, is what's really interesting about it is that in terms of that adventure of self, is it's an interesting one, right? Because, you know, well, you know, you know, the complete human journey, because the human life really actually is a journey. It's intended as a journey, because you're meant to start off on a wrong track in life, right? That's where you start. If you look at the cycle of individuation, of, like, say, the hero's journey, and mythology expresses it very well, which is, George Lucas is a master in understanding all of that. If you look at that, um, a child is born, that and they become lost to who they are. They're born of a very powerful lineage, usually royalty, something like that. But then they become lost to who they are. For their own safety, they have to be hidden from who they are. And so they grow up this mediocre shadow of themselves, which then they restored over time. They're restored back to themselves and then live that out. And that is the human journey. We're meant to go on that journey, because what that wrong track in life we're born into, we're not meant to stay on it. And so we come into that. We have these experiences. We take on all of these beliefs. We take on an identity, and that identity protects us. It actually makes us play small, you see. And relatively, right, it does. It makes us play safe and small. And we're meant to end that and come back to ourselves and live out what we call our greatness, which is our true selves, and our inherent gifts and talents and abilities, and kind of live the life we were born. And so, that is a journey. That is an adventure, you know. And it's what I was saying was, it's an interesting one. It's a really interesting one, because it's like, in a way, you sort of go, well, everyone should go. And you'd expect everyone to go on that journey. But in truth, the real truth of it is, not many people go on that journey. Most people play out their child in hiding for, that part of the myth, for the rest of their lives. They never realize that there's more to them, and feel a need to go and discover that, and figure that one out. It's just like, I'll just, most people are in their shadow self, living out their shadow self, living out their shadow life. And how can I just best accommodate my ego, who I think I should be, who I think I believe I should become, what I kind of like, how's it best that I can feather my nest here, and stay here, right? And so it's really interesting to me, because you go, well, every human being is designed to do the complete cycle, right? And it's an interesting one, because it's like, well, how do you go on the complete cycle? Well, mythology tells us, and I think you and I know for ourselves. You get, and mythology tells you get called to adventure. You get called to adventure, and what is that calling? It's like an inkling. It's a sense, or maybe it's it's a violent realization that, like, this nest you've been feathering, this shadow life that you've been playing out, and accommodating as best you can, is not enough. Doesn't really work. Doesn't really, get you what you want. Doesn't work the best. Isn't the best. Isn't the most. That there is something more. There is something better. Something like happens in our lives, should happen, that calls us on that adventure. There is the call to adventure. You're a little hobbit there, and one day a wizard appears there, and has dinner with you, and it's, wow, I'm in the presence of a wizard. And then at the end of dinner, he says, who wants to go and get some gold? Right? And what's that gold? Is the treasure within us. So it's a curious thing, is that life is inherently built into life is an adventure, you know, the adventure of self. But it's always curious to me and interesting to me, who goes on this adventure, who takes it, you know, who hears the call, who, you know, who goes along with it, and, you know, even more importantly, who sticks at it, right? Because don't forget, at the beginning of every adventure in mythology is all that weirdness and danger and all that some run back home, you know, right? You know, but it's to persist on that journey back to yourself. And I mean, to me, you know, nobody's going to take that journey unless they have support, you know, unless there are people around them that understand the journey and explain the journey to the person, you know. It might be, well, usually will be people you know and associate with, some teacher, some literature, whatever, and actually really a combination of all of those. It is, you know, like, if, because you can be called and you can hear that calling and not even know that it's happening, you know. It's got to be validated to you, you know. There's got, you got to be experiencing this inkling, and then there's got to be feedback from outside of you that you're right, you know. And then when that exists, then that's the catalyst for the journey. And, you know, the deeper you go into the journey, then of course the more of that validation you need as you go, the more of that support. Otherwise, you never go on the adventure of self. Then your adventure of self is having fights at the football stadium with the other team supporters, you know. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that come up from what you say, and what I was thinking, because you brought up this this thing around the call to adventure, and I was, you know, remarking on, like, you know, I grew up in pretty, there were just sort of kind of vanilla circumstances, you know, suburbia, American suburbia, which didn't have any great, you know, adventure outside. There was no, you know, you grew up in sub-Saharan Africa with animals, you know, wild animals all around, right? So there's kind of an adventure sort of built into that environment, whereas, you know, suburban America was pretty cookie cutter in a lot of ways. And, you know, one of the things that you talk about in your trainings is, I don't know if you say it like this, but what I see it is that one of the great failings of the, you know, sort of modern Western, quote unquote, civilized world is that we don't have initiation rites anymore. So there's nothing to take boys to men, girls to women. I mean, girls have a physical transition that's much more obvious than boys. So there is something at some point that some older woman usually has to tell a girl why she's bleeding from inside, right? Whereas boys just like, well, I don't know, you just figure it out from you know, locker room talk and pass a, you know, girly mag around or whatever it is. I mean, and so we don't have those structures in our society that really encourage the adventure, right? So that even if somebody does hear a call, they, as you say, they might not have a clue what it is. And you know, in my own experience, I was just sort of remarking, like, I think I had a lot of calls to adventure, and I would sort of start into them, because I would start something and think, oh, I don't know what's happening here, or this is scary, and I would kind of shut it down, you know, maybe a month or a year or whatever it is, or I would change. I would say, like, well, I've had enough of this adventure. And you know, the structure that I've gotten from you has given me a much different sense of that, because, you know, one of the things that Campbell talks about in, you know, Hero with 1,000 Faces and the hero myth is that one of the classically, and you can see it in, you know, in like Lucas in Star Wars, that there's a call to adventure and the hero refuses, right? Obi-Wan Kenobi comes to Luke Skywalker and says, let's go save the galaxy and go on an adventure. And Luke says, no, I've got chores to do. I can't go save the galaxy. You go off and do your thing, old man. I got chores. I got to play with droids in a desert, right?
Droids to fix.
Exactly. And you know, and I think some, as you say, like if they even listen to that call to adventure, and start to go onto it and go into that magical land where things really start to get bizarre and weird, and yeah, there is peril, right? Without the allies and support, it's very difficult to stay on that path. And you know, I was just sort of thinking, right, as well in terms of your trainings, as you say, you've worked with thousands of people, and you know, thousands have gone through your trainings, and now, I mean, with Create Your Destiny Online, I mean, thousands are coming through on a, you know, sort of quarterly basis, and yet thousands don't. Oh, you know, it's not like 100% of those people say, cool, I'm off on this and we're ready to go. And even, you know, I just share a really quick story because it's quite funny. You know, I was whatever 4 years into, you know, natural success work, and at the beginning of last year, right before you were due to come to London, before you put Create Your Destiny online, I had a massive creative crisis, and nothing was working. It seemed like everything was absolutely falling apart. I mean, I guess it was, you know, that catabasis where you just hit rock bottom. And I remember distinctly having this thought, you'll appreciate this, of, you know, I gave it a go. I imagined it was like I had a library card, you know, like I had a natural success card, and I just wanted to say, it's cool, I'm giving my card back in. I don't need to go to the library anymore, or the natural success gym, or whatever it is. It's cool. I tried it. It doesn't work for me. I'm just going to go back to being a muggle, back to being a hobbit. And I'm just going to, you know, put my, you know, focus down on that. You know, thankfully, I guess for me, that didn't last too long, and you know, I've created really, really amazing things since then. But you know, there's the you know, refusal to call. There's not having the allies. There's hitting your sort of, you know, wall or the rock bottom where, you know, it's very you know, it is a fascinating adventure. But it is, as you say, that, I mean, what else are you gonna do? I mean, first of all, like, what else are you gonna do? But it's the most exciting adventure out there is yourself.
Yeah, you see the I mean, there's a lot in what you said, right? There is a refusal to the call. You know, it's much more nuanced, though, the refusal to the call. You see, and it can combine what you said, you see, about how you hit a brick wall, it's not working, and that. That's really the refusal to the call, you see, because the refusal to the call isn't just saying, I'm not going. The refusal of the call is the conditional nature of taking on the adventure. An adventure is by nature unconditional. You're not in control of the circumstances, are you? If you were, you know, some dude, you know, in the days of sailing ships and swords, and you came to land on South American shores and, you know, went up the jungle, you're not going up there conditionally, are you? You're not going like, well, if we have toast at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll come, and marmalade. No, you go up there, and what happens, you see. The refusal of the call isn't just like going, nah, that's not for me. I mean, it can be, right? Nobody just becomes an immediate, you know, recruit in anything, you know, things dawn on you and all that. So refusal to the call isn't just, I'm not going to do it, I'm cool here. I think even more importantly, refusal to the call is this nuance that it's like, yeah, I'll come on the adventure. And if this is unconscious thinking, it's not conscious thinking. Nobody's thinking this like out loud and writing it down and, you know, saying it to each other, but it's unconscious. It's like, yeah, I'm going to come on this, but on my terms, that I stick to my old, I'll come, but my old identity must survive. That mustn't be threatened. I mustn't do things that threaten my old identity, and I mustn't I must still have all the conditions that I believe I had before that kept me safe, and all that. And you see, I don't know the particular details of your kind of meltdown there, whatever, but I do structurally, I can guarantee what it was. And it was that it wasn't working for you, because it's not like you're going, oh, this doesn't work. I'm doing it and it doesn't work, so I'm going to give up. No, you're doing it, but you're not doing it. You're not doing it like as an adventure. You're bringing, like you're trying to go sailing up the river with your castle back from Spain planted on the boat. As you go up the river, you're doing it while insisting to remain in the old beliefs, the old behavior, like, right, the old conditions, hanging on to the old conditions. And you can't change like that. I mean, what do you think change means? You see, the adventure is the change, isn't it? Really, it's change, and that's what, like, what changes. Well, you change the conditions. What insist, like, going to have as a safety mechanism, and your like your behaviors and the conditions that must exist, all of that, like, you want those in place as you go for that, and that can't work, you see. And so that's what people do. They go, yeah, I've given it a go. No, but no, you didn't. You didn't apply the true principles of creativity, of change, of manifestation, whatever. And Robert Kiyosaki, the great wealth creation guru, he says it best. He says, everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one's prepared to die. And all of, you see, but you see, that's the thing. All of these things must be supported. You need to understand the nature of something that you're going through to better go through it. Actually, how can you go through it? So, like in mythology, there's always a wise man, woman, whatever, like right, a mentor. And there's always companions. Have you known a hero journey where there weren't companions? No, they're companions. And so, the wise, the mentors, the companions, well, they can reflect things to you. They can advise, explain what you're going through, what sort of phase you're in now, and can also, share with you and relate to you, so that, well, I'm not the only person that's gone through this. I'm not the only, right? And as you say, I think societally we had much more, well, people, because it wasn't us before us, people had much more support in transformation, in this sort of transformation, right? Because there was an official initiation process which served this, I mean, one of the great books that I've ever read is just an incredible book, is Iron John by Robert Bly, and it's the story of initiation. And it's like, in that, it's actually phenomenal, because he says every culture and civilization that ever had initiation processes and practices, there were three themes to all of them, no matter what time in history and where and what culture and what religion those people were. The three themes, right, is that the being within, within this exists a being, a spirit, right? A natural self, a natural ability, an essential self, right? This is just a carcass. This is just, a computer up here and that. but within that exists a being. You're a being, right? So let's just establish that. And then also you wounded. You wounded in relation to that nature. You don't believe that nature can take care of you, you know. So that's your wrong track in life. You're born into this, but this is wounded. And so you see, your wound essentially, whatever form it takes, is that you can't trust your own essential self and nature, the being within, you know. You know, there are a few other elements and themes, but I won't go into them because they're not pertinent to the point I'm making. But you see, then this is what everyone understands, you know, and established. Nowadays, you know, if someone, you know, gets that or thinks that, or someone else tells them and they say that to someone else, as a, oh, that new age bullshit, you know, whatever, right? You know, right? So there's no sort of like premise that we all kind of like establish and go, yeah, this is the truth about us, right? And yeah, we all have an understanding. So okay, so then what's the meaning of our lives? To come back to that being within. Oh, okay. So right, so we understand our lives as that challenge and that struggle. And wow, look at look what we're encountering. You know, look at the opposition against this within ourselves and you know, projected outwardly without, you know, look at the opposition to coming back to this. You know, but we understand it, and there are people that can reflect that understanding back to us, and you know, we supported on that journey, right? And so I think, you know, that's who's gonna that's who's gonna more than likely gonna be the ones that, you know, get called, because everyone is called. Don't worry about that. There's nobody who isn't called. No, I wasn't called. No, you were. Well, you're not old enough yet, but sooner or later you called. And with the right kind of support, you know, well, the ones with the right kind of support are gonna make it through. It take an extraordinary person, and I do believe there are some examples in history. You know, there are. I think I've never met them, but I believe, I just get it intuitively, there must be, and there seem to be some examples of some really outstanding sort of individuals in that way who did it by themselves and spontaneously. But I mean that's very unusual.
Yeah, I want to move into the sort of the creative side of things, because there's a sort of thread left sort of hanging here as we've been talking about adventure, that, you know, and I think a lot of people can assume, oh, adventure is just going off, and you know, it's like, yes, it has an unknown aspect, and you know, but you know, within the context of what we're saying, particularly, you know, we were talking about the hero's journey right there, you know, and you spoke about this kind of, you know, the wizard comes and let's go for gold, but that's a metaphoric thing, and I'm just reminded as well, because the, you know, it ties back to you know, some of the, one of the premises of your work, that, you know, our power, our ability, our, you know, that being, that spirit within is pure creative potential and force. And you were talking about these, you know, Bly's understanding of initiation. I'm reminded of a story that Joseph Campbell shared when he, I think, was, you know, traveling through, I don't know, Papua New Guinea or someplace, and got to, you know, witness some initiation rites, and he shared, you know, I saw an interview with him. He shared, he's just like, you know, he's so expressive and loves to see these experiences, like, you know, played out. And you know, the boys of the village or the tribe, you know, living out in the jungle, you know, started hearing the drums, boom 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 boom, you know, off in the, and the mothers start getting freaked out, and the women are scared because they're all along with it. You know, oh my God, what's happening, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, these men come, but with masks, right? You know, these horrible creatures come and rip the boys that are screaming, out of their mother's hands, right? And then initiate them, right? Initiate them from boyhood into manhood. And there are all these, trials and testing them physically, emotionally, but the thing, it's the climax that Campbell speaks about, that he says is the most amazing thing, because at some point, when they've kind of overcome their trials, and they are to be initiated as, you are a man, and the mentor, the older man, the elder that's wearing this mask, takes it off and puts it on the boy's head, on the face, and it's just to say, like, no, you are now embodying this God. You are a living representation of this force inside of you that you were so scared of, that you didn't even know how to deal with. You are that now.
Yeah. Yeah, the interest, yeah, that's right. And the interesting thing about that is that, like, often these sort of painful, torturous experiences of initiation. I mean, this is just a matter of interest, right? Is they, like, I used to, because I used to witness initiations, right? And I used to think they were just horrible, barbaric, and just cruelty, and really the interesting thing that Campbell pointed out was that actually, there may be some kind of tests or something of strength and manhood, and maybe, but what they more than anything is, they were that whatever happened, was actually to drive in, like to inculcate the teaching. So they teach you something, then knock a tooth out, and you associated that teaching with that tooth being knocked out forever, you never forgot it, right? So that's really interesting. But I've lost, sorry, I forgot the point of where I've lost the thread of where we're going now. From the being taken away from the mothers to being,
well, showing your true self, right? Showing your true,
and showing your true self. I mean, and
what you do with that, right? It's quite something to be shown. That's what, it's amazing, right? When in the work that, and the workshops you lead, to be shown, it's like to go through that opportunity to be reborn, to wake up and say, okay, so what is it you do want to create?
Well, this is a very important point, you see, because you'll notice that what a lot of philosophies, modalities, all that, what they try and impress on their adherents is just how you should be. It's like, you've got an ego and you shouldn't be like that, you should be like this, and there's a list of things of the way you should be, and it's as though, well now, the wound itself, the ego, the wrong track in life, all that's no good. So now you want to, you don't want to be that. So you want to be a good person, and here's a list of things, and here's how you should be, and you can be sure, if you want to make people unhappy and unsuccessful in life, just give them a list of things to live up to in a way that they should be. And they will fail that, right? And they will hate themselves for that, and they'll come back to you for more, right? For absolution, for forgiveness, or for the next level of how to go beyond that pain. It's just still living out of the pain body, all of that, right? It's not the answer. It's not like that. We come in from the child of hiding, and that's like a condition, and now we just become someone else, and this person has got a different set of rules. It's not. living by a different set of rules doesn't change you, you know. It's becoming who you are that changes you. And the way you become who you are is not be a certain way. And boy, you know, there's nobody who's anybody in like, you know, the self-mastery realm who'll tell you that. Like Robert Fritz, the sort of creative orientation guru, Joseph Campbell, the mythology guru, you know, anyone is like, you know, how you return to yourself and act in favor of yourself is exactly that, is by acting in favor of yourself, which is creating, which is creating yourself. You create yourself, right? You create yourself. And how do you create yourself? You realize who that being, you know, that being within, the God within is. You realize, and in specific terms, because it's not a general term. It's specifically, who are you? What is your essence? And you know, what is the expression of your essence? You know, like what is your unique expression? And what gifts and talents and abilities serve that, right? And very importantly, what do you want to create? Everybody, you know, when you know, like, you know, we know, where we in our practice, you know, have the ability to see people, to be seen, to see ourselves, and we realize there's this self-realization. This is who they are, really. This is who I am, really, you know. And this is what I love. And I, you know, I mean by that, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want to create. This is what I want. And, you know, everybody's different. Everybody wants something else. Everyone wants to create something else. But all of us have within us an expression that we seek to be expressed, right? And what is that? And then to act in favor of that and manifest that. And that's how we come to, you know, be integrated into our true selves. And you know, like being ourselves, you could say. That's how we be our true self, is we create, you know, we create. And you better believe it. Everybody on planet Earth has something to create. And, you know, otherwise, why would we be creative why would we be creative? Essentially, why would we be essentially creative if we didn't have something to create? I mean, you know, I think one of the most ubiquitous symbols in the world, you have to agree with this, is the yin and yang symbol, right? The yin and yang symbol, masculine and feminine. What does that mean? You know, you see it on, you know, like I've got friends that have got it on the cover of their Facebook, you know, whatever. They don't know what it means. It's just virtue signaling, right? Seriously. It can just be virtuous, yeah, yin and yang, you know, balance. They don't know what it means. What gender, that's masculine and feminine. Gender are aspects of creativity. Aspects, that means you're a creator, and there's a feminine aspect to that creator and a masculine aspect. You're a creator. You're a creator. You are actually pure creative spirit, right? And you create. And you create what you love. I'm not going to tell you. There's one thing I'm going to tell you. You know, if you're talking to me, I'm going to tell you you're a creator, but I'm not going to tell you what to create. It's up to you what you love, right? But you better create it. You know, you better create it, right? Because that's what it's all about, creating. Creating who you are, creating what you love, creating how you love everything to be, you know, life resembling how you would love it to be, rather than as a victim of what's imposed on you by your problems, circumstances, psychology, whatever you want to say has got the power, you know.
Yeah, and that creating, it's it's a fascinating adventure to step into that, because as an adventure, of course, there's no rule book. There's no, well, if you create this today, this is what's going to happen tomorrow. We're back in the jungle, like we've just landed in South America, and we don't have a clue what's really going to happen.
Yeah.
And Fritz, one of the things I love that he wrote, that really helped me very early on, was he said, you learn to create by creating.
Yeah.
And so you create something small. Okay, cool. And then you take a bigger step, and maybe you take a misstep, and you're not quite sure, because I think there's a sense sometimes from the outside when people see, artists, entrepreneurs, it's like, oh, but they're talented. They're this, they're that, and I'm not that thing. But the creative process is not linear, right? It is not and it is not sort of just like 7 steps to heaven, right? It's a bit messy. And like even I'm in sort of, I had a sense of what you and I spoke about through coaching, right, of my own expression. And I remember thinking, because there's a sense of fear that comes in, right? Even if you have a reflection, even if you comprehend or apprehend, yes, okay, this is my truth. Well, fuck me, I don't know how to do that, and that's way too big for me, so I'm just going to back off and do something smaller. And I had something around sort of personal expression through my voice, and I don't know, a year and a half ago, I got an idea to do some voiceover work, and recorded some narrative audio books and got some recording equipment, and it was cool. It was a good experience, and I earned a little money, but mainly I learned how to use editing software and microphones, because I quickly realized I didn't care that much about reading somebody else's material. I mean, yes, it's nice to make a little cash, but it wasn't my truth. And it got me to a point where I said, oh, actually, what I want to do is voice my expression and have conversations with other people about this adventure of self-expression, which led to this. And so it's not like, okay, I've decided this and therefore snap. I mean, there are times when we do create things very effortlessly and seemingly almost overnight, but the creative process is a journey, right? It is that adventure.
Yeah, it is. It is, and Fritz is right. You learn how to create, but you learn about yourself by creating. And by the way, you also heal yourself by creating. You really do, because what creating will do. And you don't create for this reason, but what it does is as a side effect, if you like, is that it will reveal, it does. It's amazing. It reveals to you what is wounded about you, and also the illusory nature of just like of that wounding. It really does. It kind of like dissipates it. So it's creating's amazing, because you create things that you want, like that are good for you, that you love, that you care about. That look, creating is a way of having what matters to you, what really matters to you. It's a way of having your heart. You create what matters to you in every sense, materially, spiritually, emotionally, so you have what you want, and you learn about yourself. And also you heal yourself in the process. You see, the biggest thing I find, though, is that with the problem with learning is that you don't, because we're in an age of a lot of learning. We are, you got to admit that, right? Like now with the pandemic, people have used that time to learn a lot, to do a lot of courses and workshops and all of that, right? And people learn a lot, but they don't apply the learning. And I don't know that assumptively or guessing or anything. I work with people, and I work, as you know, I work with masses of people. And you know, when I explain this point to people, boy, I tell you what, for the vast majority, it's a big like, "Ah, God, I didn't apply the learning. You know, I didn't apply the learning. You know, I say to people, look, just find something, you know, because you're going to go on an adventure. And why would people be doing all of this personal development? They might not think that way, but think of the big, deep why underneath. Why are people doing all these workshops? Personal development, wealth creation, you know, self-transformation, this, that, healing, all that. Why? Why? I'll tell you why. Because they're called to adventure.
Mm.
And they want a structure that's going to support them on that. And they're searching. And there are good structures out there and there are bad structures, I guess. They're less effective and more effective. But you know, like what I say to people is this, is that if you find a modality, right, you know, it's all you need. You know, it's just practice that. Take what you learn from it and apply it. And then what you realize from that spontaneously, or because you're encouraged because of your success to learn more deeply, whatever, you know, you go into this learning cycle. But it's a learning cycle in which you learn, apply, and get results, which takes you deeper. It's like it's a positive spiral. You know, it's not a downward spiral, it's a positive spiral. It's like being an eagle and lofting up on a thermal, you know. And that thermal, our thermal current, is learning, but applying, and then, you know, so a lot of people just don't apply it. They just will not apply it, right? And because, you know, they kind of like feel alone, and they don't trust it, right? And so it's that thing again of, yeah, so I'll just learn more. And it's like they're not really doing it. And so it's like, well, if I eventually learn enough, or at some point I'm going to learn something, and it's as though the learning will do it for me. No, only the application will do it for you. It's not like an injection. It's not a vax, you know, to mention something controversial. You're not being vaccinated here. You're not getting an injection that's going to do it for you, right? You learn in something that you apply, you know, and, you know, that in that application, you will encounter results. You'll encounter conditions. You'll encounter, you know, experiences, life, and you know, you will, you know, like you will through that find your way, and to an exalted way, to a better way, a higher way, you know. And it's this thing, you know, it's yes, we are learning here, but we must apply what we're learning. We must apply at some time. You know, I mean, can you imagine? I was going to call you Steve Taylor. Can you imagine? You know, like imagine we want to swim, and we stay on the side of the pool, and people kind of, we have, you know, we go, oh, this guy's got a method of teaching how to swim. I'll go and check him out. Yeah, and you know, but you're doing it on dry land, and he teaches you theoretically, you know, and you even practice, you know, you like lie on the ground and paddle like this or whatever. And then you go, oh, you look at the water, and oh, there's another guy or another gal teaching swimming. That looks like a different way. Oh, that looks interesting. And you go there and lie on the ground with them, and you know, right? But you never go in the water. You got to go in the water, right? And you know, it just goes back to, you got to, you know, you got to, like you're going to do it if you're well supported. You're gonna do it if you're well supported, right? But you got to support yourself. You're got to want it. I know if I can use myself as an example, because I'm a good example, because I came from a very fucked up life before that. I think you know that. And I had uneducated, huge intellectual challenges. I won't bore everyone with my story here, but 10-year heroin addiction, huge health problems, you know, relationship, financial troubles, all of that, right? Serious problems, I mean, I'll just say this, give everyone a sense of how bad it was for me, and I'm not bragging, but I really mean this. I could hear the worst story anyone could tell me, and I wouldn't go, oh, well, that's worse than I had it, And I never did. I never went, shit, finally, someone who's had it worse than me. Like I've never had that, and it's like, and yet, like when I heard the call, and I just went, yeah, okay, I want this. I intend it, I intend it. I seriously intend to go on this journey and get the benefits of it. It's like not half-hearted, not with conditions. I'm going to go on this journey, and man, I got the best mentor. I attracted the best mentors. I attracted the best, journey companions ever. The literature, everything, right? I manifested that. Even the support and the mentoring and what's required to support you on your journey is actually something you have to create. You can't just like lie around going, wow, right? Or not know that you need it, or know that you need it, but just languish there. Create it. I tell you what, beyond the actual principles and the secrets of making it, all that is, it's that support is so crucial. It really is, and you need it, and you must create it.
Yeah, I mean, my sort of wobble last year, if I didn't have the support of other people that had gone through, mainly who had gone through your trainings, Natural Success. Well, there's some other friends of mine as well, who were just naturally supportive and caring to give me a reflection of what was possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I'd be. I wasn't sort of at the bottom of my life. I've been much worse. But it was interesting to see and to really see, as you say, the ability to call in and cultivate those resources, to know when, because it's something different between kind of going to somebody and saying, you need to help me, or you need to tell me what to do, and what we do, it's like, well, I'm asking for reflection, I'm asking for just honesty about things, because a lot of what we talk about when we do coaching, readings, whatever. I mean, it's truth, right? It's some people hear what we say and they say, well, that's really, you can't say that to somebody. Like, well, if they're an adult and they're open to growth, then why wouldn't they be open to truth? I'm not saying something and you don't, I coach with you, and many times that you kind of bitch slap me around, and but it wasn't, it's not out of malice. I don't think it was from you. It's in service to somebody, to somebody's truth and their growth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's the thing is you've learned nothing. You're still that child in hiding. If you're in relationship to someone as an authority and they're going to tell you what to do and how you should do it and all that, no, they should exist as a reflection.
Yeah,
because you in relation to yourself, you have the wisdom, you have the power. You're a powerful person. You have the wisdom. You're a creative person. The answers are within you, you know, and so that's what supporters are, you know, that's what mentors are really in the true sense. They're, you know, sure, you know, they can instruct you and remind you of the premises and principles of the way, and but you know that's it, right? You know, it's for you. It's for you to figure out. And you know, as a society, we're really horribly addicted to the opposite. We're full of advice. You know, we're full of advice. You know, as soon as somebody, you know, let's say shares a problem, just as an example, you know, oh my God, people just want to tell that person what to do and what they should do about it. And, you know, like, you know, when I get sick and I tell people, oh my God, all the things that people, they don't even know what's wrong with me. And they're already telling me what the prescription is, you know, or prescribing. It's just a human addiction, you know, to resolve tension, right? Rather than sit with me and go, okay, yeah, I see that, William. You know, and if anything, you know, reflect to me about what's going on for me, you know, not to fix me. I'm not broken, thank you. You know, that's the illusion of the child in hiding. So there's a whole thing that we need fixing, and you know, we're so keen to fix each other because we're a whole bunch of children in hiding, and we are relating in that. No, nobody's broken. I'm not broken, thank you. You don't have to fix me. You don't have to rush to give me a prescription, you know, like a mud pack or this or that, or, you know, whatever. It's like, first of all, what's that got to do with my condition? You know, you know, so it's like what I need, what anybody needs is just a reflection, you know, and then our own natures, our own creative spirit in getting that reflection, you know, and through realization will work with that, you see. And yeah, so that's you know, I mean, that's the that's the truer form and level of support, really.
Yeah, I mean, I just maybe just bring something back, and as we, you know, start to bring it to a close. But you know, what you were talking about, that application, because I really resonate with that, and I think it goes to, in a way, what you're talking about when we look to that advice, right? Because I, you know, I looked to all the other callings that I had, and there was something that I wanted to fix, so-called fix something in myself, you know, that, and I looked to these other modalities and learned this and do this practice, and you know, I'm sure I got things from it, and not to, you know, negate any learning I got, but that sense that, you know, you were talking about, it's like, well, you were just talking about, you know, that we are powerful, that we're creators, and you know, the modalities like of true mentors, and you know, modality that you use, it's a framework. It's not instructions. There's a structure, there's a framework, and there are other, you know, there are many that do work, that don't tell you what to do. They guide you to yourself, to your own possibility. And so somebody can, you know, a coach or a mentor, somebody can say, well, you should do this. Well, whether that's true or not, you as the person still have to make a decision whether to do that and then follow through. And that's that application. And I, you know, I really get that sense, you know, because I'm reminded of, like, I don't know, I think I saw it in Ashram somewhere, and I'm sure, I don't know who originally, or who it's attributed to, but you know, an ounce of application, an ounce of practice is worth a ton of theory, right? And you can learn about all sorts of things, but until you actually start to live it, to put it into practice, and to work it, then you know, you're just you know, giving advice to people on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, that's a very important point, though. You know, like it's super important. Because if you need to be told how to do everything, you're still a child, right? You're still a child in hiding. You know, you have a nature and a natural ability and a spirit, you know, creative spirit that is genius. You are genius. Who you really are is genius. And that genius, your genius, has the perfect response for you as applied to anything, right? And so, you know, but you see, honestly, truly, most people, and I would say even modalities in that they pay lip service to, but they don't really believe in the power of others. So they'll, you know, they will like control them and tell them what to do. And others will seek to be told, you see. And you know, like, and we see it when we do our work, and you teach something, and you teach that guideline, as you say, the principle, the premise, you know, how it works. Straight away, the people in the audience who want to go, yeah, well, how does it work in this situation, or how does it work in that situation, or how does it, you know? So they go, oh, well, you know, in life, you know, I'm likely to find myself in that situation. So William, tell me how I will apply this in that situation. You know, it's like, well, sorry, I teach the premise. I don't teach the meaning, you know. You know, so you know, you know, when you in that situation and you apply what I've taught you, you'll figure it out for yourself, and very powerfully. But if I tell you now what to do in that, there's a lot happens, you see. Is like, well, what about that situation? What about that situation? It's like, Jesus, I haven't got a manual for life, Christ's sakes, you know. It's like you apply this stuff when you're in the situations. And also, if I give you a prescription beforehand, I'm not going to be in that situation. I'm not going to be you. I'm not going to be the person that you're with. I'm not going to, how do I know that that's relevant? You know, only your soul takes into account the relevance of any situation and how to respond to it, you know. So really, in the end, the secret is to teach a person how to relate to their soul and be guided by their soul, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that learning, and for, you know, grateful to myself and the allies that I've had along the way, who for continuing on that adventure.
Yeah. To the allies.
Thanks, brother.
Good people. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Taylor. Good to catch up, man.
Yeah.
And remind ourselves of these fundamental truths.
Yeah.
Which we hold to be self-evident.
Could write a constitution or a declaration of creative independence. These truths that are self-evident.
Which are self-evident, you know. Which we hold as self-evident.
Jefferson, yeah. Thomas Jefferson. Great. Well, thank you, William. I really appreciate this conversation. I think it's been, I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed sharing the space with you, and grateful to have you on for your tutelage, laughs, and even a reminder of Steve, which maybe we get to it at another adventure, which was on that same trip to Swaziland, zip lines. Steve was causing havoc and his adventures of his own.
Yeah, that's right. Misadventures. Did you say misadventures?
Well, yes, you did. Yes. Yeah.
The misadventures of Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, and hopefully we'll be out there again. I mean, you know, Swaziland, where we were, that's got great white water rafting, you know, and that really is very exciting, because you know, you're contending with not only the rapids but also hippos and crocodiles. You know, that always makes it a lot of fun. So we've done that. And what about in the Okavango Delta? canoeing through all the hippos and the hippos
Yeah.
rearing up and
Yeah, done that. Done that in
that's
little, what
it.
are the Dow boats or whatever they are?
Yeah, Macaros.
Macaro, sorry, yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks to you, and hello and goodbye to anyone who's listening to that. May you have an excellent adventure.
Thanks, William.